Could you kindly explain to me why there are different numbers of rakats in each prayer and only two in Fajr prayer?
Only two in Fajr prayer and
different numbers of rakats in each prayer.
I don't know that either. But I can suggest, there is no definite answer, but I can suggest. The fact is that the morning prayer has a preceding Tahajjud prayer which is very long. Already, those who say Tahajjud prayer are almost exhausted. And Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to lie down on one side for a while and rest. Then said two rakat of sunnah, but very lightly. The Sahaba say that it was the lightest of prayers that they had ever witnessed him saying. And then the morning prayer was just a light prayer. But not very light. The prayer itself was not very light, only the rakat were two. Because there were some others as well who hadn't said Tahajjud prayer and they wanted to start the day. So for them, the rakat in themselves were rather elongated in the sense that long surahs were recited in those rakats. But after, there was no sunnah. Nor was it permitted to say any sunnah or nafil between morning prayer and the sunrise. Because that was in fact the time for the people to go out for work. And in the modern society, the timings are different. We can't say the modern society because everywhere the things are different. Still, the masses of people, the great majority of mankind, has a habit of rising early. Only the so-called modern people have changed their habits to rising late. So that still applies to the majority of mankind, that the morning time is also the work time. So after that they are made to go out. And in Asr prayer also the same philosophy seems to be working. Because after Asr generally people go out for either walks or play, games, etc. So it is prohibited to say any sunnah or nafil between Asr and the sunset. And that time is also left free, so that people must go out and participate in other activities. And also Asr is very light. Although in the number of rakat, it is twice as much as the morning prayer, but because there are no long recitations from the Holy Quran, and it's a quiet prayer, quietly said in heart, so the time is even less than what you spend in the morning prayer. So similarly, if you exercise your own mind, you could come out with some more suggestions as to why. But we cannot pinpoint this was the reason, because we don't know, Allah didn't tell us. But by exercising one's mind, one can come out with suggestions. Enough? Illustration? Yes, please. Today is the day of young boys. Don't scare me, please. No, there's no need to be forgiven. There's no occasion to be forgiven. Please ask as you please.
Am I allowed to make a portrait?
Of course. Nothing to be forgiven, to be thankful in fact. I'll be grateful if you take a portrait, but with you yourself in it. Right? Somebody else should take our portrait together. Right?
I think you mean hand-drawn portrait, not actually picture.
No, that's not called portrait. You don't draw. You said take a portrait. To take a portrait is different. To draw is different. You want to draw me? No, I don't like to be drawn. Thank you for clarifying this. Because he said to take a portrait. To take doesn't mean to draw. Yes, please, now it's your turn.
So we do have references in the Holy Quran about the modern discoveries of telecommunication and transport. My question is about the scientific mystery of black hole, which you mentioned in one of the sermons. Does Holy Quran mention about these mysteries or another mystery?
I refer to the Holy Quran itself when I mentioned that in the sermon. I told, as far as I remember, in very clear terms, quoting the verses as well, which bear reference to the phenomena of black hole and re-emergence of the universe. Both are mentioned in the Holy Quran, but maybe I'm forgetting. I may not have discussed it in such detail.
Maybe I don't remember.
You know, the Holy I'll explain. The Holy Quran describes this phenomena in two places. كانت السماوات والأرض رتقا ففتقناهما. That is the one place where black hole phenomena has been explained. In the old commentaries, you will find the word Ratkan translated as a sort of nebula, a cloud or smoky, large, huge, shapeless, smoky appearance. This is also correct. But the true meaning of Ratkan is exactly the opposite. And the Arabic dictionaries explain it as something so tightly sewed that nothing can escape. So, both these stages of universe which have been scientifically proved have been discussed, have been mentioned in the Holy Quran under the one single word. And the most beautiful thing about the Holy Quran that it has the maximum economy of words and maximum meaning can be drawn from those words. So, Kanata Rathan means the heaven and earth both were at one stage like a small ball with which the children play, which is sewn so tightly that nothing within can escape. Entirely everything is enclosed therein. And secondly it says that both the skies and heavens were in a state of nebula to which we gave shape later on. So, Fatak is also applicable to both these meanings of the word Rathan. Fatak means to break open, suddenly. And Fatak also means to make distinctions so that things precipitate and appear to be distinct from each other. So, how beautiful the language is the language of Holy Quran, that in one short sentence, it explains the entire phenomena of creation. So, Ratkan is the thing which is, in one sense, the black hole. Because the definition of black hole is this, that nothing can escape it. No radiation, no sound, no news, so much so that nobody knows what is inside and what the size is. The size has been calculated by some scientists, some mathematicians, to be the tiniest that you can imagine, but it is just a guesswork. Nobody can say with definiteness how tiny that black hole is, but they can say this much, that the entire universe can be contracted to that size. And that size, once it's contracted, encompasses everything and doesn't exude anything, with the result that it is a thing without property. There is no chemical property or physical property or any other property which you can ascribe to that thing called black hole. And if you define nothingness, that is exactly the lack of property. Anything which has no property does not exist. So it is a form of non-existence. Some people, sometimes scientists have gone so far as to opine that black hole disappears on one planet, in one dimension, and reappears as a universe in another dimension of which we have no concept. So they have been offering very interesting possibilities, but we are not concerned with them. We are concerned with the total disappearance of the universe into a black hole which is so tightly sewn that no property can be observed from outside or permitted to be observed from outside. Then the Holy Quran says in another verse, mentions the phenomena of recreation of the universe, and also the phenomena of its disappearance. Now first it is mentioned as disappearance. It says that Kanata Matri Yomanati Sama Katayis Sijil Kutub. The second verse is about Ed, right hand. That has been mentioned, but there is another verse, another meaning I remember, but I don't remember the verse. It says that, in the second verse here, it says that like this we will repeat. And there is another, in my right hand, I'll hold. In the previous part of this verse, the word adding has been mentioned. As if I'll have the universe wound round my hand, my right hand. Huh? No, that's different. In this context, you remember the verse preceding this? No, the verse preceding this one. Yomadati Sama Katayis Sijil Lil Kutub. Previous to this, preceding this. Anyway, this part, even this part will serve our purpose. When you go to kindly refer to the Holy Quran and give me the whole verse. So, Allah says, Yawma Nati Sama Katayis Sijil Lil Kutub. That a day will come when we will wrap around the whole universe like a person who rolls his scroll. Tayyis Sijil Lil Kutub. Kutub is the scroll of the old days. Scrolls, books were written on long stripes, and they were not the shape of the books we have today. They were long stripes which were rolled like a film. So the Holy Quran says that a time would come when we will roll the whole universe. Katayis Sijil Lil Kutub. It will be rolled and packed into a small size, but the phenomena is mentioned as rolling, like a film, like ordinary picture film. It is rolled. It is exactly the same phenomena as mentioned. That I know. That is a different verse. I've got that in mind, but I'm not referring to that at present. So this phenomena, if you study the phenomena of black hole coming into being and look at the pictures which have been created by scientists, you will be surprised that when the binary stars collapse onto each other, or one part of the binary star begins to shift on the other, and then it turns into a dwarf, and that dwarf collapses into, ultimately, into a black hole. This whole phenomena in these various stages has been described by scientists. And in the last stage, they say that when the matter from outside world is detected by a black hole, it does not fall in any other way but like a sheet. And that sheet does not strike directly, but gets rolled around, exactly as the Holy Quran has described this phenomenon. It's most fantastic thing, the Holy Quran is. A beautiful picture has been created by scientists, and it is manifested in the scientific magazines and books. For anybody to see that illustrated by a scientist. This verse is exactly the picture of what happens according to the knowledge of the advanced scientists today. Then it says, Kama Badana. The verse is Awwala Khalqin Nu'idu. Now this is again a most beautiful part of this verse. It says that this has happened before, and we brought you into creation, Kama Badana. So we are talking of the end, which was once, but there was a beginning to it. And we are just discussing that. We will repeat the same phenomena, and that universe which has disappeared by the process of ruling will ultimately reappear. So we don't know how many times the universe has been wound round in sheets, in the form of sheets, and disappeared into black holes. But we know that this has happened before according to the Holy Quran, and the scientists are now conjecturing their possibility. They don't know it yet. But they know that this universe can go into nothingness again. The whole universe. And some say that because the Inna la Museum is a different phenomenon. It says that because it's expanding, and there is an end to that expansion. And ultimately it will reach a stage where it will start recontracting. And when it begins recontracting, then there is a greater possibility of a large black hole forming, which are already, many black holes are forming already. So they are getting together, and the black holes have to become so powerful as to reabsorb the entire universe ultimately. So in those two short verses, Allah has described the whole phenomenon. Perhaps I couldn't mention that in such detail in sermon because most of the audience are not scientific minded and they can't absorb all this. So, but I mentioned this briefly.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Hassan.
Yes, please.
So if the tree of Zakum is the food of the sinful, could you please explain what Zakum is? Zakum.
Zakum, I see.
Fruit of the
Well, the fruit of zakum found in Palestine is the most delicious fruit. And they eat plenty of it, don't they? Zakum. Samara of zakum.
يقال لها الصبر أيضا.
Sabr. Is it delicious?
No.
Lazizun jiddan? No. So that fruit is also very delicious here. And those who are given that fruit in the hell, I don't know how that will taste. Only it's a symbolic language, in fact. The fact is that zakum is the product of the desert, and it is a product which flourish in the extreme conditions where there is no water and no life. So those people who are without this water from Allah, that is the heavenly water of religion, and they flourish in the desert conditions as far as the religion goes. Their fruit would also be something taking root in the desert. And in the hell, they will find such fruits as are without water, because as they themselves were without the water of Allah, so their fruits would also be. That is one thing which can be explained in this regard, but this should be further investigated. Now
reading the revelations of the promised Messiah in Tazkira, of 1905, I was just reading and I came across that, I don't remember the exact Arabic version, but I can tell you the translation. And it says that Allah is going to send His armies all of a sudden. And as they were quite near to that prophecy of Abu Lahab's hands being, both hands of Abu Lahab being cut off, do you think there are any significance according to these circumstances?
Don't you think so? You also think so, don't you?
Jesus.
You could as well be right. Please. Yes?
Could you please explain why cremation is forbidden in Islam?
Cremation? It is, in fact, every philosophy has distinct features about the concept of respect. And for example, in Europe, it is disrespectful to appear before elders with the cap on. You see in English they say, I take my hat off to you. Hats off or hat off is an expression of respect. But it's exactly the opposite in the Oriental concept of respect. So Islamic social system also has a concept of respect of human being. So it is a part of that social concept of respect that those who died should not be cremated, but they should be buried with respect. And they should be remembered ever after. And people, when they go to them, they should have a closer emotional contact with them, realizing that the same body is lying underneath. And that should help them in praying for them. So that is the emotional concept as well as the concept of respect which Islam has. So every religion has a right to issue injunctions according to its general philosophy and general framework. Yes,
Since the beginning of the current crisis, there have been many rumors, and one of them which I have heard, which I would like Hazur please to answer me, is that...
Are you come from the United States?
I'm an American citizen, yes sir.
When did you come?
From the United States?
Yes.
Well, my name is Abu Bakr Lad, and I came today to London, but I spent the last 2 months in Nigeria.
Yes, that's right. I wanted to find out, please, now. Please continue. Yes.
My question, sir, is this. The rumor that the way the story was told to me in Nigeria was that some time ago, some person in Pakistan had disappeared. I don't know whether he was a member of Jamaat or whether he was somebody else. In any case, that person has disappeared.
So many people disappear, so what? Why should I answer that question? It doesn't relate to me.
No, sir. The story that is told is that the people who are now instigating the current trouble are blaming you or blaming...
But your question belies this story because you said, I don't know whether it belongs to the Ahmadiyya community or outside.
My question is this, sir.
You just said
that
I don't know whether the person who is supposed to have disappeared belongs to Ahmadiyya community or outside.
I don't know.
You said just now.
Yes.
So if that possibility is open, that allegation cannot arise because you couldn't have made an Ahmadi disappear.
Okay, now my question, sir, is this, because of that confusion in my mind. You have been accused, or the Jamaat has been accused, I have been told, by somebody.
Yes.
If this is so, if Pakistan had an Islamic justice and an Islamic republic,
yes,
what would have been the Islamic, the proper Islamic behavior, action of such a government if they in fact entertain such ideas?
You know, everything is un-Islamic about the whole story. If somebody has a right to allege, he must prove in Islam or he should be punished. So for 2 years, this story is being circulated, and the mullah says so and so has done some such and such thing, and they don't offer any proof. They are all just insulting people, of which they have no right. So had there been an Islamic state, they would have been punished thoroughly. Because according to Islam, if somebody alleges somebody to have say, committed what do you call it? Adultery, or the other word, fornication. And he can't prove it, he would be lashed 80 times. This is Islam. It stands for the human respect. It stands for the respect of truth. It does not permit people to go on spreading rumors and lies about others. It, in fact, discourages such behavior so strongly that no other religion in the world can claim equality to this. Doesn't even come near Islam. So, talking of an Islamic state, if somebody had alleged, he would be made to prove or will be punished. And these people for the last 2 years have been propagating against the Ahmadiyya community, and nobody punishes them. And they are still permitted to go on and on. So this is the most un-Islamic state. The most un-Islamic state of affairs. Yes, please.
Hazur, still with Islamic punishment, some Ahmadis have supported the interpretation of the Quranic verse relating to the punishment of theft as meaning imprisonment or something else other than the actual amputation of the hands. Is such a view valid, particularly since it's contrary to the practice of the Holy Prophet, or so it appears?
It all stems from a meaning attributed to Fateh. Some people insist that Fateh, the word used by the Holy Quran for severing one's hand, also means to put somebody out of circulation, to make him ineffective. And they also quote from the Holy Quran referring to the verse Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. And it says that virtually, practically, no, not virtually but practically, literally, the hands of Abu Lahab were never severed, and they remained intact and healthy. They were not destroyed. But virtually he was destroyed, and he was made ineffective in his efforts to destroy Islam. So, taking their cue from this as well, they say that if a thief is made ineffective in any manner, so that he cannot steal again, that purpose is also served by this verse. So that is why we say, but it's an open question. It has to be investigated and found out definitely to what extent. But as far as the practical, the first literal translation is concerned, we know positively that Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered the severing of hand, and one should not be ashamed of this. If you are running away from this through shame, being ashamed of an Islamic teaching while you are facing a modern world, this is the wrong attitude. Because that will be insulting Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam too. Because if an act is to be ashamed of in his time, then it should be an act of shame for this time as well, and vice versa. So that is nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, the Islamic system of punishment has to be examined in context of Islamic moral teaching and the atmosphere of high moral standard which Islam endeavors to establish in the society. When that happens, then the society rises to such heights as crimes become very rare and unnatural. Without creating that society, if we go for criminal punishment, we will be doing great injustice to Islam. For example, it is also established that anybody who steals because the hunger compels him, his hand will never be severed. So in a society where millions of people are left unattended and many of them die of hunger and their basic needs are not provided by that society, however big loud their claim be to Islamization, they do not deserve and they have no right to introduce Islamic system of punishment, because Islamic system of provision has not been produced, and Islamic system of morality has not been introduced. So to go for Islamic punishment without all these prerequisites is totally wrong. This is why it looks so strange. And then there is Islamic standard of evidence, and the whole society is turned into a truthful society. Without that, if you, for example, introduce the Islamic system of punishment for fornication or adultery in a country, I shouldn't name any country because they would be hurt maybe, but there are certain countries where it is a common crime, and it's a common crime to tell lies, and for 5 rupees or so you can buy evidence. So if Islamic system of punishment is introduced in such a country, what would happen? That the few people who do not indulge in fornication, they would be killed and they will be lashed by those who indulge in fornication. And it's so easy for them to produce false evidence. So if the standard of evidence is totally un-Islamic, how can you introduce Islamic system of punishment? It is putting the horse before the cart before the horse. First create the prerequisites which Islam creates with effort and labor. And Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam created with great endeavor. Then you have a right to introduce the punishment part, which will come in the end, not before. Yes, please, the young boy, youngest boy. Yes, youngest is behind you, please.
What is an imam?
What is?
An imam.
Imam? Imam. Imam, that is faith. If you have faith on something, that is called Iman. And Iman and not peace. I guess you can keep standing, otherwise you will lose sight of me or I will lose sight of you. Yes. You know, there are 2 types of knowledge or beliefs. One belief springs from observations. Like I am observing you, and it is not that I have Iman on you. But if you tell me something which I have not observed myself directly, but I only believe you that you are right, then that thing, if I believe, is called Iman. Follow this? Direct observation and personal knowledge is not called Iman, but an indirect observation based on some evidence is called Iman if that belief is strongly established in one's heart. Right? Now the second boy, in the older age. Yes? You, with the cap on.
At school,
Are you really young or you are short in stature? Huh?
I'm not short.
You should, yes, I thought so, yes, please. It's alright, inshallah, you take some medicine from me, contact Imam Sahib tomorrow and we write to him Cilicia 6 sets and Calcaria Floor 6 sets. To be daily taken first thing in the morning, 2 tablets each, right? And then write to me after 6 months or get up here if I am here and ask you a question, I'll find out myself whether you have grown or not. Right? Please.
At school, an assembly, we have to do these Christian hymns, we have to sing these hymns. Are we allowed to sing the Christian hymns?
If the hymns carry a sense of idolatry or calling partners by Allah, by saying that, oh Jesus, Son of Lord, then it is prohibited. You must not say at any cost. If it is a hymn to God, any hymn is good. Allah is Allah, and if He is praised even by our enemies, we will be so happy and we can join in chorus with Him. Yes?
So we have to take many tests in life, and that's usually because the people who set these tests want to know how we...
Tests?
Yeah. And they want to know how we will perform and how we will react to these tests. And Allah also does this. And but like you have Iblis, who is sent to tempt us to wrongdoing. But as Allah is the all-knowing, He already knows what our reaction and what our performance is going to be. So why does He test us?
Why?
Why does He test us? Why does He subject us to this temptation?
Because testing is not just the object or purpose. It is a phenomena of creation of things. If you know that if you put wheat into the mill, it will come out as flour, does that knowledge, would that knowledge be enough for the people to be fed with that flour? That knowledge would not be enough. And you can also test the mill by pouring in wheat and knowing that it would come out on the other end as a beautiful powdered flour. So Allah's knowledge is not, Allah's universe is not just for the knowledge of Allah and testing. It is for a creative process, and that process has to be there. And if that process is not there, now as a converse I'll prove it in a different way, then Allah will not have a knowledge. See? So that argument falls automatically. If that process which follows Allah's knowledge, or Allah's knowledge precedes that process, and you say because Allah knows it, so that process can be avoided. So let's avoid that process. We will also destroy the knowledge. Because knowledge apparently precedes in time, but actually depends in order. Right? Yes, just one last question by anyone, or maybe two. Young boy, I would prefer this day. All right, after you. When I said young boy, you raise your hand further high. Come on, yes, I'm talking of you. No. The youngest boy.
How far this generally held view is correct that woman's evidence is half than that of a man?
It is wrong. It's totally wrong.
Is it half in any circumstance?
No. In no circumstance it is half. I have explained this at length in my last speech at the Sasalana last year, and also I repeated part of it here in one of my sessions, and explained why some scholars mistook it, and what was the reason why they misunderstood, and what is the true import of that verse, which has been misconstrued by some scholars. So you go through that case and inshallah you will know. Yes, please.
So, will the people who lived before Hazrat Adam be answerable to God?
Could you repeat your question?
Will the people who lived before Hazrat Adam be answerable to God?
People who lived before Adam, will they be answerable to God?
You know, the people who were before Hazrat Adam, there are two types. Those who went into decadence long ago, and just prior to Hazrat Adam, they were without a Sharia, without a law from God. Those people cannot be answerable to Allah as far as the law is concerned. But every being, not to mention human life, every being has an innate system. And that system, whenever it is violated, that being is answerable to that extent that it goes for the punishment by automatic laws of nature. In that sense, every being, according to his standard of consciousness, is answerable to God, because whenever that being violates the law of nature, which has been inborn in that being, it automatically gets punished. So all the animal kingdom in this respect is answerable. But before Adam, there might be long before other Adams with religious knowledge revealed to them. And of such a people, we have evidence in Australia. The Australian Aborigines have a history of 40,000 years. While our Adam was born, or came into creation as Adam, as prophet, only 7,000 years ago, or 6,000 some years ago. So, what about those people who were born 40,000 years ago, and since then have had no contact with the religious world outside? When I investigated into their religion, I was surprised to find similarities with the religious people which had absolutely no contact with them, and which came much later. Two examples are very interesting. One is circumcision, and they have a religious tradition of circumcising their children like Islam orders or Judaism orders. The sons of Abraham, or the people generation which followed Hazrat Abraham, was instructed by Allah to go for circumcision. And that circumcision is also found in those old religions. And despite the fact that there were at least 600 different languages, not dialects, each language different from the other tribes, and those tribes never came into contact because they roamed within their own circles. The only contact they must have had must have been at the time nearest to their origin, that is closest to 40,000 years ago. So they must have inherited a common religion at least that old. And all these religious aspects are found in all tribes of Australia. This is the surprising thing. So that shows that they must be dated back as far as possible. Secondly, they believe in dreams exactly as we do, particularly animals. And they have the same phenomena of warning, of glad tidings and interpretations, and they have this elder who interpret dreams. So the mention of dreams with relation to Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, for example, in the Holy Quran, has a strong authenticity in the Holy Quran. With that, we know that Allah shows such dreams and we can interpret them if we are capable of doing so and get messages pertaining to future. And this is exactly their religion. And some Westerners who didn't understand them wrote about them that they are a dreamy people, as if they are daydreaming. when I investigated, I found that it was not at all a dream phenomenon. It was exactly a religious phenomenon of dream. And they say that our Creator, the force, life force which was responsible for creation, that comes into contact with us through dreams. So these are just two illustrations that Adams were before Hazrat Adam, as we call him, and they were also revealed some ways, code of life by Allah, of which we have no record because they are almost extinct entirely, except what we have come to learn about the Aborigines of Australia. Right?
So, when children are born, why are some disabled and some normal?
Disabled? Do you belong to London?
No.
Oh, where do you belong to?
Birmingham.
Huh? Birmingham. There also they speak a slightly Cockney accent, don't they? Either disabled or disabled. If I don't follow sometimes, because it was always been difficult for me to follow an accent which is closer to Cockney accent. They highly pronounce certain diphthongs and others distort them. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Please, the disabled people are born because of a scientific phenomena. And there are so many reasons that I can't explain them here. As far as the moral question is concerned, I think that would be too far above your head to discuss that question here, please. I don't know what you have in mind, the scientific reason or the moral aspect. That's enough for today, please. The rest, inshallah, tomorrow.